Let me turn to Sarah Lea Whitson. She's Executive Director of Democracy for the Arab World Now, or DAWN, and she joins me live from New York. Sarah, good to have you on the program. President Biden, of course, promised to help the civil war in Yemen and ease the crisis the U.S. helped create. You recently wrote, or co-wrote, I should say, an opinion piece for the Washington Post, and you say basically the Biden administration could have ended the brutal war in Yemen as it had promised, but that clearly has not happened, and the situation has gotten dramatically worse. Explain that to us.
Yeah, President Biden promised that he would end America's role in the war in Yemen, and he promised that he would end arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Instead, he has rewarded Saudi Arabia and the UAE with billions more in weapons. In Saudi Arabia's case, claiming that they're defensive weapons, continued to provide intelligence support to the Emiratis, as Lloyd Austin reminded us today, and is now even using U.S. troops based in the UAE to act as parties to the conflict by supporting the Emirates in the recent attacks by the Houthis into Yemen. Into the UAE. There was a moment when I think there was an opening for a much more serious peace effort, for a serious ceasefire. And in fact, the Emiratis recognized this when they pulled out of the war, declared that they had left the war. And there was an opportunity for Saudi Arabia to realize and recognize that it had lost the war, that it had not achieved any of its aims in the war, and to end its bombardment of the country. Instead, the United States has encouraged it to re-up its effort and is now engaging in earnest as a party to the conflict.
Okay, so Sarah, if you talk to the U.S. or the Saudi-led coalition, and I know you know this, they would say, first of all, their strategy, you mentioned this as well, is a defensive one, not an offensive one. And they would say the Houthis are equally to blame for the disaster we're seeing in Yemen. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, the blame game is really a waste of everyone's time, because we could go on ad infinitum to blame one side or the other about who has committed abuses or who started it. The Houthis, of course, are responsible for war crimes in the country, but the Houthis are not an external actor. It's very clear that the Saudi bombardment of Yemen has continued nonstop, that has not stopped, and that is the main issue. The main issue is the Saudi UAE enforced embargo of the country that has left tens of millions of people on the brink of starvation. If you ask the Houthis, they will say that they are retaliating against the ongoing embargo, the ongoing siege of the country's borders, and the ongoing bombardment. So that really doesn't get us far. What we really want is for Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and most importantly, as backers, the United States, to end this war in Yemen.
Okay, so Sarah, let me interrupt you because we're running out of time, and I really want to get to the bottom of this. I completely understand where you're coming from because I read what you wrote in the Washington Post. The issue right now is this war needs to come to an end, and it is not happening. What needs to happen for this crisis to end, for 7 years of hell or nightmare, if you would come to a finality for the people of Yemen?
The first thing that has to happen, and the best way for Saudi Arabia and the Emirates to protect their own citizens, to protect them from the Houthi missile attacks, is to end their war into Yemen and to end the embargo. Only when that fighting stops can there be an opportunity for the Yemeni parties to the conflict, for the Yemeni people to come together to figure out an arrangement for peace, to figure out an arrangement for unity. That is impossible so long as the Emiratis and the Saudis continue to bombard and starve the country.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Sarah Lea Whitson, thank you.